This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. We begin in Ukraine. Emergency crews hosed down buildings and cars set ablaze during a missile strike this morning. At least 32 people were killed and dozens more hurt in the northern city of Sumy. Ukrainian officials say Russia fired 2 ballistic missiles into the heart of the city. Reporter Dominic Velitis has the latest.
The streets of Sumy were bustling when the missiles struck. Unverified footage posted online shows the aftermath of the attack. Bodies can be seen lying on the ground, and there are many wounded. Buildings are damaged, and cars are burning. Some of the victims were on the streets when the missiles hit, on their way to church to celebrate Palm Sunday. Others were in their homes, vehicles, and on public transport at the time. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has condemned the strike, which came just days after US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff held talks with Russia's Vladimir Putin about a potential ceasefire. In a statement on social media, Zelensky described the missile strike on Sumy as horrific and called on the world to respond firmly to it. Dominic Velitis for CBC News, Riga, Latvia.
To the Middle East, with Israel attacking the last operating hospital in Gaza City. 2 missiles destroyed the emergency and intensive care units. People combed through the debris of the Al Ali Arab Baptist Hospital. The attack happened during the night. Medics say they received a call from Israeli security 20 minutes before the strike, ordering them to evacuate patients and staff. No one was killed by the missiles, but some reports say 1 patient died during the evacuation because medical staff were unable to provide urgent care. Hamas and Palestinian officials are condemning the attack. Israel says it was targeting a Hamas command center. Officials in the Dominican Republic say a woman rescued from the rubble of a roof collapse has died. The woman, one of 189 people rescued alive after the roof of a popular nightclub collapsed last Tuesday. Health officials say the woman died in hospital yesterday. The death toll from the disaster now stands at 226. 14 people still in hospital, and still no word on what caused the roof to collapse in the first place. The federal election campaign now past the halfway point, and on the campaign trail today, Liberal leader Mark Carney and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre will be on Radio Canada's talk show Tout le monde en parle tonight, while NDP leader Jagmeet Singh will be making an announcement in Timmins, Ontario. Green Party co-leader Elizabeth May will be attending an all-candidates debate in Pender Island, BC. And Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet will be appearing with local candidates throughout the day. They have just 2 more weeks to make calls, knock on doors, and sway would-be voters. That ground game is crucial in one particular riding in Quebec that was home to the closest race in the country last election. The CBC's Emma Godmere has more.
It was probably the worst experience I've had in my life.
Patrick O'Hara of the Bloc Québécois remembers the 2021 election vividly.
How many more doors did I need to knock on? How many more phone calls did I need to do?
After celebrating victory on election night, a recount later revealed he lost to the Liberals by just 12 votes.
I got to win and I got to lose all in the same run. So I know either way it's going to go this year. I know exactly what to expect, right?
O'Hara is back running in the redrawn riding of Châteauguay-les-Jardins de Napierville, a partly rural corner of southwestern Quebec that touches the U.S. border. CBC's poll tracker shows public support for the bloc has plummeted since the start of the year.
I could not imagine a Canada run by the Conservative Party.
Carrying the Liberal banner this time, longtime gun control advocate Nathalie Provost.
I hope that together we will be able to build Canada in those strange conditions in which we are now holding this campaign.
Her pitch to voters leans heavily on Mark Carney's leadership, while O'Hara leans local.
We need to make sure that we're well represented so that Quebec can intervene in any future negotiations and make sure that our industries are protected.
Local winemaker Normand Gannett is still undecided.
We want to hear from political parties as actually having a plan for moving forward with Canada, what happens with the economy.
But what happens first in this riding could once again come down to Gannett and a handful of fellow voters. Emma Godmere, CBC News, Hemmingford, Quebec.
It was just a few days ago that Liberal leader Mark Carney pledged to reinvigorate the gun buyback program, even though it has faced mounting problems and opposition under the Trudeau Liberals. One country that's having a similar debate over firearms is Australia, and one of its states has just brought in the country's strictest gun laws. Phil Mercer has more from Sydney.
There are now over 4 million registered firearms in Australia.
Stephen Bendall from the Australian Gun Safety Alliance says this is the highest number ever recorded in the country. Western Australia is the first state to limit the number of firearms individuals can own. Rapid release guns are also outlawed.
You can press a button and the next cartridge comes into the magazine. That effectively turns it into a semi or an automatic firearm. It circumvents the current laws, and most of them are banned, but West Australia's jumped right on top of it and banned them all.
Owners of rapid release firearms will get compensation if they hand them in before April 14. There's also a new buyback scheme for other types of guns. But campaigner Kate Fantanel says the legislation unfairly targets law-abiding gun owners rather than criminals.
None of these new laws address anything to do with the criminal market, the bikies, drug wars that we have going on in that state. It's all to target the peaceful person.
Helicopters began ferrying the injured to Hobart from Port Arthur after a gunman opened fire there this afternoon.
Authorities say the new laws are the biggest crackdown on firearms since the Port Arthur massacre in 1996, Australia's worst mass shooting. 35 people were murdered by a lone gunman in Tasmania, prompting an immediate overhaul of firearms legislation. Phil Mercer for CBC News, Sydney.
The polls are now open in Ecuador as the country holds its runoff presidential election. The race between the incumbent, a young millionaire, and a progressive lawyer is expected to be close. As Manuel Rueda reports, tackling the rising crime rate is a big issue of the campaign.
In his latest campaign rally, President Daniel Noboa talks about turning Ecuador into a land of opportunity. But he gets the loudest cheers addressing the number one priority of Ecuadorian voters. We will defeat crime, says the president. Ecuador's homicide rate has tripled over the past 4 years, with gangs murdering local officials and political candidates who stand in their way. Noboa and his rival Luisa González have different views on how to defeat the drug gangs that have become so powerful in some provinces that they even tax local businesses. The president has ordered the army to patrol the streets of some cities and has promised to see closer ties with the U.S. military. His opponent wants to increase cooperation between security forces and everyday Ecuadorians. She's talked about paying community leaders to organize crime prevention activities and to feed information to the police. We don't need foreign mercenaries to come and protect us, González said at a rally. González and Noboa have been neck and neck in opinion polls. Analysts say that the winner will have to seek the support of smaller parties to govern, including those representing Ecuador's indigenous people. Manuel Rueda for CBC News, Bogotá.
In Beijing, typhoon-like winds whipped through China's capital, causing travel delays and forcing many people to stay home. Winds packing gusts of up to 150 kilometers per hour are forcing the cancellation of hundreds of flights. Local parks and theme parks have been closed at least through today as officials warn of possible sandstorms. Several outdoor events have been suspended this weekend, and people are being asked to avoid unnecessary travel. Officials say the gale force winds could potentially break records dating back to 1951. And finally, Pope Francis has made a brief appearance at St. Peter's Square.
Buona Domenica delle Palme. Buona Settimana Santa.
Happy Palm Sunday, happy Holy Week, the pontiff exclaims towards the end of the service. Francis was then rolled in his wheelchair to greet the crowd. The Pope is recovering from double pneumonia after a 5-week hospital stay. He was discharged in late March. His doctors say that the lung infection nearly killed him. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to our website, cbcnews.ca. And if you're enjoying the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm John Northcott. Thanks for spending part of your weekend with us here at CBC News.